Hi everyone, missiles in Star Citizen are a pretty important part of your ship's weaponry. Here's how to use them. So assuming you're in SCM mode, have a look at your MFD's multifunction displays to find out which mode you're in. You want to check and make sure you're in the gun mode of SCM. Assuming you're in that mode, press your middle mouse button to switch over to MSL or missile mode. It's going to show the update on your HUD accordingly. Now some ships are fitted with multiple types of missiles. If that's the case, you can use the scroll wheel on your mouse to switch between the different types of missiles available. So yep, just scroll there to change from one type of missile to the other. Keep in mind different missiles have different damage types and various other properties. So then there's another thing to note here. You can also press the G key on your keyboard to change the number of missiles you're going to fire off in any given volley. In this case, I can fire off up to 4 at a time by pressing G to toggle that value. This is really handy because you can charge up a volley of 4 missiles and then unleash them when the moment is right. Keep in mind that each missile does have an arming time, so it's important to take that into consideration when you want to use missiles. So here's the important part, and this is actually arming and firing your missiles. So again, change over to missile mode. Your missiles are going to begin to arm by themselves. Then you need to acquire a target. Okay, so you press T to cycle between the various targets you have available. That's all great, but your missiles aren't locking. Why not? Because you're probably out of range, or possibly anyway. So right now, as of the current patch, you need to be 1.7 to 1.8 kilometers away from your target in order for the missiles to actually get a lock. That's your minimum arming distance. There's also a maximum arming distance, and that's around 10 kilometers away from the target. So you have to be more than 1.7 kilometers away and less than 10 kilometers away in order to get a lock. Now the tricky part is actually knowing when you've got a proper missile lock, because there's various phases to the lock, but a fairly good rule of thumb is that when you hear that distinctive lock chime and your ship's computer says something like target acquired or something like that, might differ from ship to ship, that's a good sign your missiles have a lock. Then once your missiles are armed, and make sure your full salvo's armed or as many as you want to fire, simply left click to fire the missiles. Now if you've done this properly, and assuming the server's performing well today, because some servers have issues that can mess up missiles, but yeah, all being well, your missiles are going to fire out and hopefully home right in on that target. Now keep in mind at this point, even though they're on their way, they might still miss for some reason. For example, the target might deploy countermeasures to try and shake the missiles. They might use evasive maneuvers. So keep in mind it's not a guaranteed hit, but hopefully, all being well, you'll see your damage indicators on the target status light up in red, indicating you scored a nice solid hit with that missile volley. Now missiles can be useful for a number of purposes. Personally, I recommend primarily relying on your ship's main guns to do most of your damage, but if you happen to be over 1.7 kilometers away from your target at any given point, it can be a good idea to switch over to missiles and give them a quick volley. Just keep in mind that arming time does play a role, so you'll have to allow for that when you change over to missile mode. In this case, I was able to do a good amount of damage with both the main guns and the missiles by alternating between them. Just bear in mind you have a limited stock of missiles, so once you run out, you'll need to go to a hangar to restock them, and that can be expensive if they're larger missiles. So that's pretty much the basics of how to acquire targets and fire off locked-on missiles that will hopefully hit your target in Star Citizen. If you like this video and you're interested in the game, please consider using my referral code, which you can see on the screen right now. If you use that when signing up for a new Star Citizen account, you're going to get a bonus of 50,000 credits. Thanks for watching, guys.